Hey everybody, this is Phi Kappa Psi coming to you live from YouTube. My name is Kyle Hickman. I'm the Senior Director of Communications. I'm here with Elise.
Hi, I'm Elise Bradshaw. I am the Associate Director of Leadership and Programming.
And we are here with a couple Phi Psi brothers from our Cal Gamma UC Berkeley chapter. And we've got some exciting stuff to share in terms of service and one of the projects they worked on. And so we think this is a really cool way to bring the story to you rather than just words on a page. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time just kind of throwing some questions back and forth, talking a little bit about what they were able to accomplish. And I think we're going to walk away with some really cool nuggets of wisdom. So we'll start there. We'll do a few introductions for our men of the hour.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Zach.
My name's Zach Hotoff. I'm a senior here at UC Berkeley. I'll be graduating this week, and I'm a computer science major here. I joined Phi Psi back in my fall semester of my freshman year, back in 2012. And I'm the 1184th member of Cal Gamma.
Nice. I'm Nathan Avenport. I'm a junior at UC Berkeley. I'm double majoring in business and MCB. I want to go to med school after school. I'm right now I'm vice president. Zach was actually the previous president, one of the guys who sort of convinced me to run for position. And yeah.
Well, awesome. So that kind of tells us a little bit about where you're at now. What brought you to Phi Psi in the first place? What caused you to join in the first place?
Well, I guess like I was walking around campus, wasn't really sure what Greek life was, what fraternities was, and I just happened to meet like 4 other people who told me about Phi Psi. They said there was a cool group of dudes, really into brotherhood, really into service. Not like so I went and checked it out. I actually met Zach there, met a few other brothers there, and I just really bonded with the guys well. Wasn't the typical fraternity guys who were just into partying. They cared more about philanthropy and scholarship and that, and I really like that.
Yeah, I would say UC Berkeley's got a very interesting Greek life. You know, when you think about it, it's not like similar to other schools' Greek lives. And I had no plan of becoming, a fraternity member. But when I got here, suddenly all like the, stigmas about it just kind of dissolved away. And I met a bunch of guys that kind of had the same mindset that I did. So I joined.
And we're better off.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys talked a little bit about how you joined Phi Psi, but how did you end up in Cuba for this project? So talk to us a little bit about that. Talk us through that. What got you guys there?
Okay, yeah, that's probably me. Yeah, so I don't know. I'd probably say a year ago for no apparent reason. Honestly, I think it was probably after like ALA or something in Cabo.
Maybe.
I think I said like, all right, let's do something different than Mexico this next time. So I go up to Nate. I'm like, all right, Nate, next year, you want to go to Cuba? And he's like, yes, absolutely. So I think once you really get to start saying that, you start figuring out like what you're going to do. We saw that Cuba had a lot of restrictions as far as U.S. travel. So we were looking into ways that we could get involved with the Cuban community. A way for us to like go there, show that we're, being a part of the transition between, having this lockdown between the U.S. and Cuba, and we, tried to open that up a little bit. And then it wasn't just us two. Our other guy couldn't make it today, Andy Frey. So the 3 of us just kind of decided Cuba was the place to go for spring break. And from there, I reached out to my mom, who works at a synagogue in LA, and she was able to find someone who just traveled back from Cuba and got us connected with this orphanage along the way.
Yeah.
So about when did you make the trip down to Cuba? And how long were you there?
We were there for 10 days. We made it during our spring break, which was
March 7th.
March 17th to March 28th. We're there from Thursday actually all the way until the next Sunday.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
So what were some of your expectations coming into this experience? It sounds like you guys planned for a good year ahead of time that you wanted to do this, which is really cool. But what were some of the initial expectations you had of just maybe the area, the political landscape, and maybe some of the philanthropic things that were going on where you were at?
Well, I mean, honestly, I didn't know much about Cuba to begin with. We purchased the Lonely Planet Cuba book. I don't know if you've seen those Lonely Planet books before, but it was pretty useful to like read, a few snippets that weren't just like the Bay of Pigs, which, you learn in high school kind of stuff. Cuba is a very unique culture and economy. So it was good to know some of it ahead of time when we got there, because I mean, traveling to a place that's so foreign to Americans, it's difficult to adjust pretty fast. So I don't know what you think.
I didn't really expect much. Like I was like in class, you sort of learn it's a communist country, not really that developed. But then once you go there, it's really different. We would go to some cities that would have these like gigantic biomedical buildings, but then across the street you'd have a rundown like hut as a house. So it was it was really interesting. It was really cool to see, but I had no expectations going in really.
Awesome.
You guys touched on this a little bit, but what were some of those difficulties that you faced, whether before, during, after? Kind of walk us through that process and
talk about that. So,
well, let's start with the charity first, because that was probably the first problem we ran into.
Yeah.
So I think the way we described it is we got all of our good luck on the way there. On the way there, everything seemed to work out. Even when things didn't work out, they ended up solving themselves. Like we had one trip from one city to another, and a car broke down, and we're like got a transfer in the middle of the road. So random guy drove us here, and then we caught the other bus, and we made it in one day. And we're like, well, that worked out really well.
Yeah. Then we got to the city, and we didn't have a house to stay in. So then some mom was like, "Oh, you can stay with my daughter." So we stayed at the daughter's house. So everything just ended up
everything worked out really well.
Yeah.
But I think the first big problem we ran into was so all week we were trying to contact the orphanage, and we were originally going to do it in our first few days, go and drop off all the stuff, because we had quite a bit of weight of like stuff we'd brought with us, and it ended up being very difficult to meet up with them. And then as we were about to finally meet up with them, we find out that the director got fired. And suddenly, suddenly we don't even know if we're going to be able to meet up with them.
Yeah.
And we're calling like every other day, kind of trying to figure out, because this was, the mission the whole time was to get all this, all these toys and like supplies and soap and detergent. And, we didn't want that. And we knew this was our whole mission. But we were able to convince them to let us actually slide in without any of the government knowing.
Yeah, because supposedly foreigners can actually donate supplies directly to orphanages, and we found that out while we were like outside. Yeah. So it was just it was kind of interesting. Yeah.
The government provides them with all their basic necessities, but they make it very difficult. There's a whole process you have to go to in order to donate, and we were thankfully able to avoid that process thanks to a man named Ernesto and his wife Yaima. They really helped us out with that.
Yeah, definitely. Then I guess one other hurdle we had to go through was,
this is the biggest one.
As we're leaving the country, we have a flight on Cubana Airlines at 7 a.m.
Which we should stop there. If anyone is listening now, never
Don't fly
Air Cubana.
That's just a bad idea.
Yeah.
We get there at 4. The flight is canceled.
4 a.m.
4 a.m. Flight's canceled. We're like, oh my God, what do we do? No one in the airport actually knew why the flight got canceled, and they didn't know when we were going to be given another flight. So pretty much long story short, we were in the airport for like 2 days.
Yep.
There were people rioting in the airport.
The Mexican nationals literally had barricades outside of Cubana Air's gates.
They went and got the Mexican embassy involved.
Yeah.
We all had to so you actually can't use American cards or debit cards in Cuba. So there was this point where we had no more money, food, water, or internet.
Yeah.
And then they lied and told us we had a flight, so they ended up taking our visas too, so we had no more visas either.
Yeah, it was quite the experience. All in all, we're here. We made it home.
We made it home, but
it was a tough journey home.
If we were to go back, we'd fly Aeromexico.
Yes, fly Aeromexico. Everyone.
That's a good airline.
It sounds like you guys got a little bit more than you bargained for, but that's what the whole life is.
Yeah. So in all of that craziness that was those difficulties, you guys obviously had an impact on those people, and that place. So what do you feel was the impact that you guys had, whether that's individually or together, or, you know, what did you leave behind when you left?
Okay, so I think, I mean, as far as like a physical thing, we did provide these kids with like toys that most children have never seen before. I think the Hot Wheels were the fastest ones to go.
They went crazy for
those. The Hot Wheels
they lost it.
Yeah. And then I had to also bring an American football.
Oh yeah.
I think we're trying to, you know, create the first Cuban American football player. So that was a cool one. Yeah,
when we went there, we started playing with the children, and it sort of seemed like they don't get a lot of visitors. It's just not part of the culture to go like people visiting orphanages that much. So we went there. They were super excited to like play games with us. They brought their own games they had immediately to come play with us. And like the second we got into the house, all of them like went to the window to see who we were. So that was super cool.
Yeah. And I think as far as like, there is a certain point where you do represent America when you start traveling through.
Yeah.
There are not that many Americans yet in Cuba. I think I looked it up. It's like 100,000 a year, which is very low for most Caribbean nations. And a lot of the places we went, I think we were kind of like some of the first Americans that were introduced to these people. And like, you know, we definitely went off the beaten path, because most people just go to Havana, and we went out to the smaller cities and didn't meet any Americans really out there. So yeah, I think we kind of left that legacy behind a little bit.
Yeah, and it just so happened that the week we were going, Obama was also in Cuba, and so was the Rolling Stones. So it was just this huge like cultural,
and the Tampa Bay Rays.
And Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, honestly we didn't know this at the time. We booked it, and then that week just ended up being the most perfect week to have visited Cuba. So so we actually got to see the Rolling Stones live, which that was really and a free concert.
Yeah,
not bad, you know. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was 500,000 other Cubans.
Yeah,
so that was really cool.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you guys didn't get a chance to go to that Rays game?
Well, we watched on TV. Yeah. We were outside of Havana at that point because Obama kind of shut down Havana. You know,
I was told the entire country was on holiday.
Yeah, that's
when
what we were told.
When Obama came.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's cool, guys. That's really cool. So interacting with the kids in particular, now as you look back, you know, weeks after the trip, have they affected you in any way, any way personally? Like, do you feel like any of those interactions have had an effect on you?
I think so. They were really happy when I saw them when they were playing me the game, just with so little they had, which kind of makes me sort of makes me envious, you know, but sometimes I take what I have for granted, and I saw what they had and the situation they were in, the country they're in. So I come back and I'm like, wow, like I'm very fortunate to be the position I'm in. So
yeah, and honestly, looking back on it, it made me think even about America itself. Cuba is a communist country, but this orphanage wasn't that run down. It was actually kind of a
it was one
a
of the
decent location.
One of the nicer houses we saw, to like marble floors,
you know,
and stuff.
There were like 20 kids with like 4 people attending them. You know, very good care, and it made me think like, are there American orphanages that need, if not more, you know, the same if not more help? And that was definitely something to take away. The communism part, some parts work, some parts don't, but
true.
That one seemed to be doing a good job to take care of everyone.
Yeah, it's interesting what they choose to invest in. Like they have the highest doctors per capita of any country.
Yeah.
And like their life expectancy is really long.
It's higher than ours.
Yeah. But then like the way they ration out food and the streets and the infrastructure.
Yeah.
So just
exactly.
Yeah.
What do you guys feel, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but what do you guys feel is the biggest thing you learned from this experience? Personally, as brothers, you know, in the greater picture of life, what do you feel like you really learned from all of this?
I think it's more that like you really can make a difference, even during spring break when you travel. You don't really think that. Like I remember when he asked me, do I want to go to Cuba, the first thing on my mind wasn't necessarily to go to this orphanage and donate, but then you sort of realize like wherever you go, you could represent FISI, you could represent your brother, you could represent like the US. And that's just the biggest thing I learned, because I do want to travel in the future. And so now I know like I really can make a difference wherever I go.
And I think mine was probably, everyone was telling me like, you know, anyone who traveled to Cuba did on like a mission trip or like a people to people group. And I kind of got the idea that why do I need to do that? I can do that. I can make a difference without having someone tell me exactly what I need to do. So we were able to get in touch with this orphanage on our own and actually communicate with them about what exactly they needed. And we went out to the dollar store and ordered things on Amazon. And I think we made a bigger impact than most people who just kind of join these groups, but are told what to do. I think we made the initiative to actually go out and like think of ideas on what these kids might want. So yeah.
So what's the one thing that you'll never forget about the experience? Maybe other than obviously your airline.
Yeah. No, I think this does.
Maybe something tangible for yourselves.
Okay, I think for me, we went to a smaller city called Vinales in Cuba, and I think one of the best things we did, we went horseback riding through a tobacco farm and got to smoke some Cuban cigars in Havana in a beautiful landscape with rolling hills and chickens and pigs and all that. That was probably the one thing I'll definitely remember.
When we're in Havana the second time around, the first time around, we went to the University of Havana and we saw a student, and the student pretty much gave us a tour of their university. Then a professor came along and gave us a tour and sort of gave us like a history lesson on Havana and sort of showed us all the historical like monuments within the university. And that was just super cool because we're just walking, they saw that we weren't Cuban, and they sort of just like picked us up and showed us around, then brought us to a bar and got us like this like national Cuban drink. And it was
Castro's drink of the revolution, which I mean, that's always interesting to learn is you learn about all these world leaders that America has kind of painted a picture of in a different way when you don't actually visit the country. And then when you visit Cuba and you learn like what Castro and Cienfuegos, who no one really knew of until we got there, these guys are very well revered in their own countries. And you kind of have to think about like the good things they've done as well beyond the bad things. So, yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. You kind of touched on the fact that you can kind of take what you learn there and improve places even around you and locally. So talk to us a little bit about that and the influence that had and what you kind of hope to do locally and how people can get involved just in your experience, the advice you would give for that.
I guess since we went, it sort of set a precedent for the younger guys in our house to know that during spring break, it doesn't have to be the typical, like, go to Mexico, like Zach said, or go to Cuba, or go to this. Like, wherever they do go, they could make a difference. They could volunteer. And I think it just makes the trip that much more fun. So hopefully we made that impact on the younger guys, because when we came back, they saw our pictures, they saw everything we did, and they were so excited about it. So hopefully they think of that next year and the years moving forward, and it could sort of be a trend that Five Sides in our chapter, maybe Five Sides nationally, if they do see this, start to go and volunteer abroad whenever they do travel during spring break or during the summer.
Yeah, and I mean, by that argument, we definitely had a good time. Like, there's no doubt that we went, out at night and had a good time like you would have in any city. But I think we really experienced a different kind of going out than like, salsa dancing and stuff like that, and just watching people like experience the music of Cuba. And it was fun and new. So
yeah,
I think I'm not going to Mexico anytime soon. I'm probably going to keep trying different countries like that.
Definitely.
And learn a little bit more.
Well, that's awesome, because I enjoy myself some salsa, so I might have to put it on my bucket list for the future. And I think Elise and I, we enjoy kind of that comment about chapters finding something that's important to them. I think a lot of times our members think because we have partnerships with certain organizations like the Boys and Girls Club that they have to do stuff with the Boys and Girls Club. If you want to do stuff with the Boys and Girls Club, wonderful. But if you have something that you care about in your local community, it could be a children's organization, it could be something about empowering women, it could be an animal show, it doesn't really matter. Just be passionate about it. And, if that's going to Cuba, if that's just staying local, global, there's a lot of different options there.
Absolutely.
So,
and I'm sorry. I didn't know if that was especially last the highest raising money of all of Phi Psi, I think, and UC Berkeley And I think it was really just because guys could get involved directly. Like my grandfather suffered from prostate cancer, and a lot of guys I know have, you know, family members that have similar ailments, and we were able to, like, you know, feel like we were making a difference, and you could see the money coming in, which is nice because you know, you could like actually get real involved with it, and
Yeah.
we grew great mustaches in the process,
Yeah,
so
and
that never hurts.
and they started that, and then I was speaking with the philanthropy chair for the fall, and we're gonna actually do like a house-wide Movember thing in the fall. So just like you said, like set a precedent and impact others. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a time that, so back when we did Movember in the fall, my team, working with a few other folks on staff, we were kind of the ones who led that charge. And so got to get a big shout out to you guys for being the champions of Movember. You guys definitely put in, you had more brothers involved than any other chapter. You guys raised more money than any other chapter. And I remember we did the gift cards for folks. And I remember processing all those gift cards. There were a lot, because it was basically anybody who raised more than $25. And I think there was like 17 or 18 guys in the chapter.
Yeah.
Super impressive, super impressive. So I think Elise and I kind of want to transition it to a Phi-Sci discussion, right?
Mhm.
And start to talk a little bit about what this experience has done for you personally and for your chapter. And I think I'll kind of pass it on there.
Yeah, so, you know, talking about your experience with Cuba and other, you know, philanthropic endeavors you guys have taken on, what role does Phi-Sci play in that for you? And what does that look like for your chapter in doing these things, doing service things, doing philanthropic things, particularly focused a little more on this project, but also just in general?
I think going with brothers who also share the same values that we hear at every single meeting and hear just throughout our day sort of bonds you together, closer with those brothers. Like, I'm definitely a lot closer with Zach, a lot closer to Andy, because we did this more so than if we just went to some like more so if we just went to like Mexico and just partied. Because it's these certain things that like we know we share these same values, which sort of brings us back to like Phi-Sci and makes us care more about our chapter.
Yeah, I got to suffer through quite a bit with this guy, so that definitely brings you a lot closer together. And I think, you know, when we were all at the orphanage together, you know, it's a great moment because you're like, we're kind of making a difference. It sometimes doesn't feel like when you're doing charities, like you're doing too much to help. And that was like one time where I could leave and be like, I think they're better off because we arrived.
Great, because my next question is going to be, what role does service play in strengthening those bonds between each one of you? So you talked about yourselves, right? But maybe give us examples of what you've seen to do for other brothers, other fraternity members on your campus. Thinking about this from a global standpoint.
Okay. I mean, we have a brother who I think Frank is a good guy to talk about. So he runs a club here at Cal that helps with prosthetics and building for, you know, disabled individuals. He himself has a prosthetic, so he really got involved with that community. We have a lot of brothers that participate in a program called SAGE, where they go to local low-income elementary schools in and around the area and try and mentor these kids that high school isn't the last stop, but maybe college. So there are definitely a lot of brothers in our house that reach out to the community and in more ways than I could probably relay in a few minutes.
Yeah.
I think our follow-up is, you named up all these organizations that the guys are involved in, and it's clear that they care, right? Why are they involved? What do you think do you think it's a personal thing? Is it a Phi-Sci thing? What drives these guys to be involved in so many different types of organizations?
I think it's just the type of characters we sort of bring into our fraternity in specific, like during Rush and during these like early moments, you sort of want to gauge what type of people these are. And we do something called the Poly Scholarship, where guys could apply for like how much is the award? Like $500 or so. And they write an essay about what they do before college. And we get some of these guys for doing these amazing things for these amazing causes. And those are the types of people we want to bring in. And so then when we do talk about serving others, they just go right for that. which is why like we try throwing these great philanthropy events every semester and try to do these volunteer things.
Yeah. In my last class here at Cal, I was asked between 3 separate things, like, what would you want to do? Make money, make the world a better place, or like be happy and have a family. And suddenly you're like, it's so tough to decide between all 3 of those things. And I'd rather, I mean, if money wasn't an issue, you're going to choose the other 2 every time, without a doubt. You know, money definitely helps with both of them. You know, you can, if with money you can provide greater, you know, help to different organizations. But in the end, it's really just like an asset to push you forward and in your endeavors.
Wonderful, guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys have just had this awesome experience. And I think it's really cool that you're able to incorporate so many different brothers into it. Like you said, you came back and you were able to kind of motivate them, hopefully, to do something different in the future. So with that, what recommendations do you have for, you know, your own chapter brothers, your national organization, just kind of everyone for future service endeavors or anything that they might want to get into? What do you recommend?
I think something that really helped us is that Zach had to connect with a local there. So it was very, I don't want to say easy, but it was easier to sort of find where we can really help out within the community. Because when you go through these other organizations, it's sort of like something much larger, bureaucratic. So I would say if you are traveling somewhere, try to find a local, or try, like in our house, we have so many international students. So I know wherever we want to go, maybe not Cuba, but any other country, someone probably lived there once and they could connect us with someone. So that definitely helps out if you ever want to volunteer anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, just to be clear though, I didn't actually know this person in Cuba. I made it a mission to like find someone's email out there. And I don't speak any Spanish, which made it very difficult, but I think I was able to just push past that, and find someone who could really contribute. I mean, will help us contribute really.
Yeah.
When we moved. So, yeah, anywhere you go, honestly, just travel. Traveling is a big one, because you see something new that you haven't seen before, and you realize like there are other people out there that are happy and not, you know, as wealthy as you are, but then there are others that are struggling that definitely need the help. So it's a big world, and you know, you should see what else there is besides Mexico. I'm not crapping on Mexico, but you know, sometimes it gets that America's backyard feel.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate it. This is a really cool story, and we're excited to share it with the rest of our members. It might, you know, spawn some new ideas. At the end of the day, they could always connect with you guys if they want to follow up, if they want to do something similar. But we're excited because these are the stories we need to be telling. These are the stories our members and non-members, our Phi-Sci friends out there, need to see, especially in a world of a lot of negative PR about fraternities and sororities. And so we know these things are happening, and the more that we have you guys telling these stories and doing Movember and going to Cuba and helping out a community in need, it's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys telling us all the ins and outs of it, and I hope that it motivates some of your other brothers nationally to do the same thing. Absolutely.
All right, gentlemen. Well, we appreciate your time. I think we've kind of exhausted our list of questions for you for the day, and we very much appreciate it. And we will talk to you soon.
Great. Thanks for talking with us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye.